beautiful friends. Heather Lefkes here. Holy smokes, it's been a hot minute since I have been live, but welcome to your very first episode of what I am affectionately calling the Health Made Simple with Heather weekly video series. And the goal really of this opportunity is to just talk about simple strategies to help move busy mamas from overwhelm to empowered. That is what I'm all about here. So I'm so excited to start this new adventure. So you can find me right here on Facebook Live every Thursday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So I am super excited. Today's topic is 3 simple signs your gut may be unhealthy and what you can do about it. You might see me glance at my notes so I stay on track because busy mamas ain't got time for squirrels. So I will do my best. But really what I want to get across to you today is that common doesn't equal normal. Common doesn't equal normal. So there are so many men and women out there that are walking around with things like gas and bloating and fatigue, and we'll talk about some other signs you might not necessarily think about. And they're running around with these things that just feel normal to them because they've always had them, or their parents had them, and their grandparents had them. So it just seems normal, like it's just normal. But normal does not, or excuse me, I should say, common does not equal normal. Your body is made with perfection in mind. So if you are not experiencing that, it's time to maybe make a shift. So I'm super excited. I have no idea. I'm learning all this new technology and I have no idea who might be joining live. But if you are tuning in live, let me know where you're tuning in from. And I want to know if this topic is for you. Have you ever experienced any issues with your gut where you're just like, oh, don't know what it is, don't know how to fix it, but something's just not right. So today is for you. So really the reason, like when I come on here, so here's the thing. So 4 years ago, actually today, I went on an adventure in Facebook Live and actually did a Facebook Live Monday through Friday. So every Monday through Friday for 9 months straight. So when I saw that pick back up in my memories, I'm like, what a more perfect time to just go back on another adventure. So what better topic to talk about on my first Facebook Live in a hot minute than poop? I mean, poop. So how this topic really came to mind is really 2 reasons. Because spring is coming. Spring is in the air. Can you feel it? I know I certainly can. The birds are chirping. It's slightly warmer. It's like 50-ish here every now and again. I get a glimmer of hope. I'm starting to see more grass in the world. So spring is here. So now is the time really where it's a perfect opportunity to just get a fresh start, to clean things out and get a fresh start for spring. But also because recently I was on a girly weekend. So some friends of mine have an awesome weekend in the summer and then also in the winter where it's just an opportunity to get together and just be us and not have, spouses or kiddos or, all the responsibilities that come with life. And we just get there and we have fun. And one of the things that we were talking about is they laughed at me when when I told them that I look at my daughter's poop every day. They're just like, you really? Like, you look at your daughter's poop every day? And so we got into this whole conversation about how poop, I can't believe how many times I'm saying poop. How your poop actually relates directly to your health. So that's one of the things I'll talk about more in a minute. But that's really how this whole conversation came top of mind, because it's common for me to look at those things and analyze them based upon the experiences that I've had. But I often take for granted what other people might think is weird. A lot of me is weird, and that's okay. So I want to give you the 3 simple signs that your gut may be unhealthy, and signs that you may not necessarily realize, again, are linked to gut health. So the first sign is you have chronic heartburn. you have chronic heartburn. So I want to know who that might be, because I will be the one that can confidently say I've lived in that space before. So that moment in my life when I experienced that. So I want to paint a picture for what my life used to be like. So every single day, like I was never more than an arm's length away from like that massive bottle of Tums. I'm talking like I even liked the thin ones that were like slightly rounded on the outside. They were like almost creamy a little bit, but still very chalky, and they were like berry flavored. So I was never more than an arm's length away from Tums because every day, all day, didn't matter what I eat. It could be a carrot stick and I got heartburn. And really, how my life just started to transform is because one day it got so bad, I was in so much pain, that I started asking a simple question. I started asking the question of why? Like, why is this happening? Like, intuitively, I knew that while that was my new normal, that it just didn't feel right to me. And so I started to backtrack it in terms of what could be causing these issues that I was experiencing, because I was young. I was like 20 something. And of course, at that time, maybe indulge a little bit more. You're up a little bit late. But I wanted to figure out why. And I actually tracked it back to a moment when I was moving from my apartment with a roommate north of where I live now, and I was moving down to where I live now. And I picked up this box, and you're wondering, like, Heather, what does a box have to do with heartburn? So I was picking up this box, and I didn't realize it, but it had my entire like hand weight set in it. So it was extremely heavy, and I picked it up wrong and I threw my back out. And I ended up going to the doctor, and what does a doctor do when you're in pain? They do what they're trained to do and what you want them to do in that moment. They prescribe you something. So the doctor prescribed me a pretty heavy duty pain medicine. I think it was like, I don't know, I don't even know. I don't take pain medicine, so I don't know what's heavy duty nowadays, but it was pretty intense. And I was taking it, and I still kept going back to the doctor and was saying, like, it's not working. So they just kept telling me to take it. And then I started going back to the doctor, and I told the doctor, like, my gut hurts all the time. Like, I'm throwing up, I can't eat anything. And so they gave me this prescription for omeprazole, which is like a heartburn medicine. So they gave me that, which then in turn fueled additional digestive issues, because what omeprazole does is it actually like reduces the stomach acid, which you need. So like when you try and get off of that medication, your body goes into like freak out mode because it's been constantly suppressing your stomach acid, and then when you try and take it off and you eat, your body's like, what's going on? I can't even digest this food. So that one moment of lifting that box has completely changed the trajectory of my life, because I realize what really prescription medications can do. And I am not anti-medicine by any means. I think there's a time and a place, but I think as a society, we're asking for it. Like, I was asking for that, and the doctor was just doing what they really were trying to be helpful to me in that moment, but knowing when there's a medical versus maybe a traditional route of healing to go. And it was a journey of probably 7 years maybe to heal my gut after that moment, because what ended up truly healing it was going to a physical therapist. Sure, I probably needed pain meds for the short term, but what I really needed instead of pain meds was to go to a physical therapist, to go to the chiropractor, to get my body back in order, so that I could actually heal itself, versus just masking those things with medication, which ultimately led to issues in my gut. So there are a lot of medications that cause issues with your gut. So take a peek, like read the insert. They're there for a reason. So that is the first thing I want you to look out for. Do you have chronic heartburn? If you do, track that back. Figure out what's the cause. Is it a food? Is it a medication? Is it stress? It could be a number of different things. So the second sign that your gut might be unhealthy is you suffer from mom brain. Do you suffer from mom brain? So I'd like to give you a lot of stories from my own life to let you know that, like, I'm a real person. And everybody's like, oh, Heather, you're the picture of perfect health. But just because you might look a certain way on the outside doesn't necessarily mean that there's not something different that's happening on the inside. So if you suffer from mom brain, you might have an unhealthy gut. A lot of people don't realize that your gut and your brain are connected. Your gut and your brain are connected. So if your gut is inflamed, your brain is inflamed. And I wish I would have grabbed it before I hopped on live. But I once had literally the scan of my body to see the inflammation in my body, and it was just extremely chronic right up by my brain. But one of the things that ended up happening to me after a necessary course of antibiotics is I got what was called candida, which is an overgrowth of yeast, but I didn't realize it. Again, it was one of those things where these moments in my life, I'm sitting there. So I want you to picture this, and maybe this has happened to you, where I'm sitting at the table and I want to say the word refrigerator, but the word, like, it's not connecting from my brain to my mouth. I cannot think of the word refrigerator. So I'm saying, like, the thing over there with the food that's cold, or like I couldn't think of the word toy chest. So I'd be like, in Riley's playroom, that thing where she puts her stuffies, like, I couldn't think of words, and it just progressively got worse. It started with forgetting little things here and there, but then it really started to scare me when I would just be like sitting and I would just like feel like I was in a fog, like almost like I was just like this constantly, and I just couldn't think of simple words. And again, that's something like heartburn, where we could just chalk it up to being, this is just how I am. Oh, I'm a mom now. I got mom brain. I put my keys in the refrigerator with the milk on accident. Now I can't find them. Like, that might be common, but that's not normal. So again, for me, it got to the point where something triggered in me to say, nope, this isn't right. This isn't normal. What might be the cause? And in that particular instance, I needed some pretty severe intervention, and I went on a very strict elimination diet to basically remove some of the triggers in my body. And then there were certain supplement protocols and chiropractic care that I was on. But just know that if you're suffering from that mom brain, check in with yourself every day and determine is it really, maybe you're just being a little flighty every now and again, or could it be something more? Because that could be a sign of chronic inflammation that you need to get checked out. Because here's the thing, like they did this scan of my body. The inflammation level was up basically just below my head. On a scale of 1 to 10, I was like a 9.4. And after my treatment protocol, in a matter of 6 months, it got down below 4, which that dramatic difference, that's the difference between whether or not you might potentially have Alzheimer's, or whether you might have dementia, or whether you might have brain cancer. So it's really serious stuff that we might just chalk up as just normal or no big deal right now. But when it compounds over 10, 20, 30, 40 years, it might be the difference between knowing your grandkids' names or not. So that's why something like this is so a passion point for me, because we don't have to live in fear and overwhelm and in pain and all these things. There's a root cause, and we can just address that root cause. So that's number 2. If you suffer from mom brain, then you might want to take a look at your gut. And the last thing I sort of hinted to earlier is changes in your bowel movements, aka your poop. So think about it. Do you experience chronic constipation? Do you experience diarrhea? Do you get cramping, bloating? And I know this isn't the most pleasant thing to talk about, but like, what does it look like when you go? So I'm looking at mine, and I'm looking at my daughters. I love my husband, but I don't look at his. He's grown. He's grown. But what do they look like? They should be well-formed, brown in color. They should float in the toilet. So if those are not checking those boxes, then you have some level of dysbiosis in your gut. And I experienced this with actually my daughter. So, like, when I tell my friends that I check my daughter's poop, like, I'm grateful that I know to do that because actually, over this past year, it was this past, the previous school year and then through the summer, just started noticing changes in it, and it just didn't look normal to me. It was different colors. It wasn't, diarrhea by any means, but it was just different. And so something in my gut, my other brain, told me that it wasn't right. And I took her to the same functional doctor that helped me when I experienced candida. And we did this urine test and found out that she actually had a extremely dangerous form of bacteria in her gut called Clostridium difficile. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but C. diff for short. But in elderly people, it's fatal. It could be fatal in weeks. So it was scary stuff, to find that out. And we come to find out that it was largely attributed to throughout the school year. So that's another reason why I was so passionate, about advocating for children, because a lot of parents had no idea. They might have no idea because they're not obsessively watching their children's poop. So their kids could be experiencing that same dangerous thing and have no idea. So I've given you all these crazy things to think about and all these stories, but what do you do about it? What are some things that you could do, some courses of action that you can do? And I've highlighted some of them, as I mentioned, some of the treatments that we walked through, but I want to give you 3 tracks that you can go on. And with me, it's like a choose your own adventure book. So I don't think that there's any one right way to do health. I think we'd be foolish to think about that. So I always say, don't let people should on you. You should find and there I go using the word, you should find the perfect version of health for you, because everybody's different. Everybody's in a different stage of life. Everybody has a different budget. Everybody has different value systems. So you've got to find what works best for you. So when I say there's 3 tracks, 3 things that you could do to sort of get your gut in check, pick the one that works best for you and roll with it. So the root cause of gut issues is usually a triad of your environment, so like lifestyle related factors, toxins in your environment. It could be stress as a trigger, things like that. So it could be your environment. It could be largely your diet is a contributing factor. With the standard American diet, there's no, I don't think it's an accident that it's an acronym, SAD, but your diet could be a big factor. And then certainly genes. Genes have their place, but think of it as like a pyramid where it's lifestyle, diet, genes. Lifestyle, diet, genes. So some of the tracks that you could go on when you're on a healing journey. The first one I will affectionately call eat more good, eat less bad. Really that simple. Eat more good, eat less bad. And this is really a philosophy that I teach a lot of the people that I work with. I call it the Simple Swaps framework, where you literally eat what you want to eat, but you find the highest and best version of that food. And ingredients, you become an ingredient detective. Like today, I eat a lot of butter. I eat cheese. I eat meat. I eat all these things. But I try and find the highest, value version of that ingredient I could have. So, you could eat more fruits, vegetables, beans, whole grains, healthy oils like olive oil, avocado oil, black seed oil. When you're choosing meats, you could look for things like wild caught fish, pastured eggs, grass-fed turkey or grass-fed poultry and meat. And when you're drinking things like wine or tea, maybe you're drinking decaffeinated coffee or even some red wine for the antioxidants. So you can eat more of those. But then on the flip side, you're just focusing on what you're eating more of, and then that's naturally crowding out the things that maybe you should eat less of, like sugar, refined grains, feedlot meat, like if your cow is eating corn, that's not natural. That's not a part of their natural diet. And the same thing with chicken, with poultry. So looking for, grass-fed options versus like factory farmed, or they call it feedlot meat. Factory farmed fish, eating less of that, eating less seed oils like canola. They always say like it's heart healthy. No, canola. So anything that came from a seed, corn oil, soybean oil, no bueno. It's very inflammatory for your body. But also just foods with toxic ingredients, artificial colors, artificial flavors, artificial sweeteners, high fructose corn syrup, those types of things you want to eat less of. Again, don't stress, but eat less. That rhymes. Don't stress, eat less. So that is track one. Eat more good, eat less bad. The second track that I say you could be on is an elimination diet. An elimination diet. I recommend everybody do one of these at some point in their life. I promise you, if you buckled down for 30 days just to try it out, it would change your life. It would absolutely change your life. And what you do with those is it's a very short-term period where you would remove gluten, you would remove dairy, you would remove eggs, corn, things like shellfish, peanuts, alcohol, caffeine. So like there's a small list of things that you're completely eliminated. And while it's a small list, they're in everything. Try and find something without corn, or try and find something without sugar. It's pretty intense, but again, it's a very short window of time, because what that does is when you remove all of those triggers, all of those commonly allergenic, I don't know if that's the word I'm looking for, foods, what that does is it allows your body to heal. So you remove the bad and then you add in good, like, probiotics and digestive enzymes and things like that. And what you do is once you remove those foods, you slowly reintroduce them, almost kind of like you were a baby. Like if you're a mama and you introduced your child, a new food every 3 days, you do that to yourself. And then what ends up happening is, I talk about common and normal, is it might be normal for you to get this feeling like after you eat. That might be normal, but then when you do an elimination diet, you might realize that feeling, that little phlegm that's in the back of your throat at the end of a meal, is a sensitivity to dairy. So that's how I found out. It was just normal. And you saw me wipe my nose. For me, when I eat dairy, my nose runs, and I'll get that like thing in the back of my throat to clear my throat. But you don't know those things unless you remove them. So when you do an elimination diet, it just teaches you so much about your body and different foods. So the last thing I'll share with you is track 3, which is intense. It is intense. And again, it's not intended to be long term. I would say track 2 and track 3 are those short term, let's heal the gut, so that we can, start to live some level of normal life. But this would really be where you are eating very few foods. There are very few foods. So not only are you eliminating everything in track 2, so gluten, dairy, eggs, corn, shellfish, peanuts, alcohol, caffeine, sugar, but you're also not having any grain, or legumes. So that would be like beans or peanuts. Is it a legume? It's kind of like those pod type things. Or any other food that you might be reactive to. Now, I would not recommend going down this road without the expertise of a nutritionist, a registered dietitian, perhaps a functional medicine doctor, to create a very tailored plan. Like this one, track 3, is what myself and my daughter went on when we had those pretty intense infections in our gut. So you want to be with somebody, if you're going to go through the effort of having these foods on this severely restricted diet, you want to make sure that they know what hidden infections do you have? Do you have mold exposure? Do you have candida? Is there fungus, yeast, overgrowth of bacteria? What's in there? Because you want to remove those trigger foods, but you also want to heal the infections, and you also want to you'll replace with good bacterias, because if you spend all this effort and time and money on special diets and things like that, but you don't actually heal it, it's going to come back. And we're all about the root cause. So those are three things that you can do to start really healing your gut if you're experiencing these issues. So I recommend, if you want to just start tomorrow, eat more good, eat less bad. It's so, so simple, but over a lifetime, it makes a huge difference. It makes a huge difference. So you might be thinking, like, whoa, there's a lot to know about digestion. So if you are curious and you want to digest it a little bit more, but don't I actually have a mini course for you, Digestion 101. It's a mini course. It's got things like some of the list of the worst foods for your digestion, 10 ways to improve your digestion, simple things like drinking water. I'm talking like practical things that you could do tomorrow. It's not like full-blown elimination diet, talk to a functional medicine doctor. It's simple stuff that you can do tomorrow. And a list of a do's and don'ts digestion guide. So if that sounds like your jam, I'm going to put a link in this in the description of this particular post so you can take advantage of it and start learning a little bit more. And actually, all this month we are talking about digestion. I promise I won't talk about poop the whole month, but we are talking about our guts and getting our guts healthy, because inflammation in your gut is the root of most diseases. So if you are experiencing things like allergies, anxiety, depression, headaches, there's a whole slew of things that we'll talk about this month. Chances are it's beginning in your belly. So I want to arm you with knowledge and tools to be able to take your health back, because we are all about moving from overwhelmed to empowered. So I hope this was helpful, and I want you to all have the most excellent day. I will see you next Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Bye, friends.